Hi and welcome. This is going to be Miss Newson's first video recording for AP Psychology, and we're going to talk about states of consciousness. So we're just going to simply define consciousness as our awareness of ourselves and our environment. And there's levels, different levels or states of consciousness. So we're going to talk about the conscious level. And the conscious level, with our simple definition, is just that. It's just our awareness of our life. But I just kind of wanted to bring attention that maybe we're not so aware or awake as much as we think. Buddhist Pema Chodron says to be fully alive, fully human, and completely awake is to be continually thrown out of the nest. And I think what she means by this is that we kind of need to shake ourselves awake, so to speak. Think about it as many times of the day where you just can force yourself to be present, and it's a real challenge. Pre-consciousness sits right below the consciousness. So, for example, if I asked you what your favorite toy was as a kid, or what your pet's name was as a child, or where you lived, if you lived in a different place, that's kind of right below the surface. It's easily obtainable, and it can just kind of pop up into your consciousness just when asked. And Freud talks about the pre-consciousness is right below the consciousness. And he kind of uses the example of an iceberg where we're conscious at the top and then pre-consciousness sits just right below. We also need to consider non-conscious. Our non-conscious brain keeps us breathing, it keeps our heart going, etc. So we're not necessarily aware of it, but it is considered a state or a level of consciousness. And then there's subconscious, which is fun. So if there's the conscious mind and then the pre-conscious, the subconscious mind is about 50% of our personality, according to Freud. And those are like, why do we do the things that we do that we can't necessarily figure out why? And that might be because of our subconscious mind. And then our unconscious mind are things like our deepest archetypes, our rooted personality. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about dreams. Hypnosis is our suggestions that certain perceptions, feelings, thoughts, or behaviors will occur. So it's not the stereotypical hypnosis where, there's a watch dangling in front of your eye and then you do crazy things that you're unaware of. You might be able to do those things, but not necessarily without your permission, if that makes sense. Most people who go to hypnotists go to essentially receive post-hypnotic suggestion, which are suggestions made during hypnosis used to help control behaviors. And the number one reason why people go to see a hypnotist is to quit smoking. And so the idea is under hypnosis at your subconscious level, the hypnotist might put these suggestions in that in your daily life you might be more aware of why you smoke or that maybe you don't want to smoke anymore. Disassociation is a split in consciousness, which allows thoughts and behaviors to occur simultaneously with others. So in other words, disassociation is not necessarily being aware of our surroundings. And we all do it to varying degrees. If you doodle in class, sometimes you might get caught so much into what you're doing that you're even aware that maybe the teacher's called on you or what time of the day it is. Daydreaming is a form of disassociation where, again, we kind of have to snap ourselves back into our consciousness because we become disassociated with our environment, which is really our awareness. Now, there is a disorder called dissociation identity disorder, which is taking that disassociation to an extreme. Let's talk about some sleep patterns and some various sleep theories as to why we sleep. Before we get into the sleep disorders, the sleep patterns, let's talk about circadian rhythms. And I recommend that you begin to just become more aware of how alert or how asleep you are throughout the day. This is your biological clock, your regular body rhythms, partly regulated by your body temperature. It's your level of wakefulness in a 24-hour cycle. And if you're more aware of when you are more aware, for example, if you're kind of not a morning person, you are probably not going to be a great learner. You're going to want to do your best tasks at the time or times of day where you're at your height. And that could be, food could be considered a part of that. Just time of day, if you become kind of more awake at night, which a lot of people in high school do. They're really tired in the morning and then they just kind of come alive at night. That's great. Just start paying attention to what your circadian rhythms are. And then at night, we'll talk about sleep patterns. So, I mean, we're not going to talk about sleep patterns at night. We'll talk about them now. But as you see in these sleep patterns, your consciousness kind of goes up and down even while you're asleep. So there's your waking phase, your dreaming phase, and then there's this almost awake, and that's kind of your dream state, which is called REM sleep. And then you have shallow sleeps, and then notice how the red, it swoops down in the middle of deep sleep about 3 or 4 times a night, and notice how it goes up the longer you sleep. You're going to need your deepest sleep those first 2, 3, 4 hours, and that's usually when you get in your deepest sleep. So REM sleep is called rapid eye movement, and it's considered paradoxical because while on the one hand you're sleeping, the other hand your body is moving, and as if you were awake, your eyes are shifting and your body might be moving with dreams. NREM is just non-REM, which is all the sleep stages except for REM. Now, your brain patterns have various wavelengths to them. So, for example, if you had a EEG set up, your alpha waves would be more go up and down more. They're called alpha waves in comparison to your delta waves, which you can see your waves of your brain are going to slow way down while you're in middle to deep sleep. Hallucinations are a type of consciousness, which is false sensory experience in absence of external stimulus. So there's some reasons for this. There's some mysteries behind this. You might have hallucinations in a real mild level if, for example, you think you see something out of the corner of your eye or you think you hear a voice. But then there's more severe hallucinations, for example, in schizophrenia, which is both visual and auditory hallucinations. This picture of a bird down here is drawn by a schizophrenic named Kate Fenner, and she was 18 years old, and she decided to just use her schizophrenic hallucinations to put it into art. And then Oliver Sacks has a really interesting book called Hallucinations. It's the sleep theories. One theory is that evolutionary sleep has protected us from our environments. Sleep has helped us to recuperate, and it does continue to help us recuperate. Some theories are that sleep helps restore and rebuild memories. I don't know about that one. And my favorite is that sleep supports creativity. And when I do our dream lecture, we'll get more into that. And of course, as a baby, you need a lot more sleep, much more so than maybe a teenager in high school, where one theory says sleep supports growth. In my next unit, we're going to talk about sleep disorders and dreams. Thanks for joining me.